Welcome back to another explainer. So today, we're unpacking a concept that literally flips how we think about self-improvement entirely on its head. We're going to look at this absolutely fascinating framework from James Clear's bestseller, Atomic Habits. Specifically, we're focusing on how it's actually truly possible to change your underlying identity in just 30 days. When I first came across this, it was a real game changer from my own perspective. Instead of just relying on empty motivation or, those fleeting bursts of willpower that fizzle out, the book lays out a structured, totally actionable way to reinvent yourself. We're going to explore exactly how that works and why most of the ways we currently try to build better habits are actually just setting us up for failure. Let's dive right in.
Okay, let's dive into this. 90%. That is the staggering failure rate of New Year's resolutions. Just think about that. We've all seen it happen, right? Heck, most of us have lived it. You walk into a gym on January 2nd and wow, there isn't an empty treadmill in sight. But by mid-February, the place is practically a ghost town. Or maybe you dedicate yourself to reading a book a week. You ride that wave of high energy for a few days, and then quietly, almost without even realizing it, you just slip right back into your old routines. That 90% failure rate isn't just a depressing statistic, it's a massive, flashing warning sign that our standard approach to change is fundamentally broken.
So what does this all mean? Why do we always fall back into those old routines? It's incredibly frustrating. Well, according to James Clear, failure happens because people try to change the exact wrong thing. Let me explain. When we want to improve, we naturally tend to focus entirely on the finish line. We fixate on what we want to achieve, like losing weight, writing a book, or making more money, rather than focusing on the type of person we actually need to become to achieve those things. We're basically aiming at the wrong target, and that subtle misalignment, that's the difference between a temporary, exhausting effort and permanent change.
The real fix, according to the book, lies in something called identity-based habits. Basically, this means focusing entirely on who you want to become to reinvent yourself for long-term success. It's the ultimate framework for changing yourself from the inside out. Instead of just, slapping a new habit on top of your old self, which, let's be honest, is incredibly exhausting and requires constant willpower, you are literally rewiring your self-image. You absolutely have to fundamentally change the who before you ever worry about the what. It's a completely different paradigm for personal growth.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how James Clear illustrates this by dividing behavior change into 3 distinct layers. Think of it kind of like an onion. On the outermost layer, you have outcomes. This is what you get: losing 10 kilograms, earning more money, winning a championship, the whole shebang. Moving one layer deeper, we hit processes. This is what you do: going to the gym, studying every single day, or implementing a new daily routine. And finally, right there at the very core, you have identity. This is what you believe. It's your self-image, your worldview, and how you perceive yourself deep down. The core problem is that most people start from the outside and try to work their way in. They start with the outcome, but the absolute magic happens when we reverse that order. Imagine 2 totally different approaches to adopting a new fitness routine. The outcome-based approach on the left, that's a trap. It sounds like this: I want to be fit, so I need to go to the gym. The motivation is entirely tied to the external result. And if you don't see results immediately, you're probably going to quit. But looking at the right side with an identity-based approach, you instead say, I am a healthy person, and healthy people don't skip workouts. See the difference? True change is identity-based. When your actions align with your underlying identity, maintaining those good habits no longer feels like exhausting, forced work. It simply becomes a natural reflection of who you already are.
This brings us to a fascinating psychological tool highlighted in the book, The Absolute Power of Self-Talk. As we look at this, I want you to think of me as your one-on-one coach for a second. It turns out that a tiny, seemingly insignificant shift in your daily vocabulary completely alters how your brain responds to temptation and resistance. The words you use in your own head literally dictate your reality. The way you talk to yourself isn't just background noise, guys. It is the steering wheel for your habits.
And this brilliantly illustrates the point. Imagine 2 people trying to quit smoking who are both offered a cigarette at a party. The first person declines by saying, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." Notice the language there. They still consider themselves a smoker who is merely trying to be good. They are actively fighting their own identity, which takes so much willpower. But the second person says, "No thanks, I don't smoke." It's a super subtle shift, but profoundly different. They have completely altered their identity. They are no longer a smoker trying to resist a craving. They are simply a non-smoker. The internal struggle is just gone, because the behavior perfectly aligns with their new beliefs. There's a really powerful idea here.
The quote says, "The moment you stop saying, 'I am lazy' or 'I am bad at studying' and start voting for your new identity, your behavior naturally follows." I found this to be one of the absolute most compelling takeaways from the whole book. Shedding that negative self-talk and stopping those limiting statements dead in their tracks is the critical initial trigger. Once you stop identifying with a negative trait, you open the door for your behavior to naturally catch up to your new positive self-image. Basically, you stop fighting yourself.
So how do we practically put this into action over the course of 30 days? Well, we treat our habits like casting votes for a new identity. I want you to imagine a little ballot box in your mind. You do not need a massive, sudden, overnight transformation to build a new identity. Actually, scratch that. Expecting that is pretty much a surefire way to fail. Instead, every single action you take is just a tiny vote for the type of person you want to become. You are building proof, step by step, day by day.
Think about how quickly these votes can add up over a single month. Reading just one page of a book doesn't magically make you an author or an intellectual overnight, sure, but it absolutely casts a definitive vote for a reader's identity. Dropping down and doing 5 push-ups doesn't turn you into an Olympic athlete, but hey, it casts a vote for an active identity. Just picture it, vote after vote being dropped right into your mental ballot box. Over the course of 30 days, these micro actions build incredible momentum. You are literally gathering undeniable evidence that you are the exact person you want to be. So the crucial point is that you don't need a landslide victory. You don't have to be perfect. You really don't have to win every single hour of every single day to change who you are. We so often give up because we slip up just once and think, oh, well, the whole day is ruined. But in an election, you just need a majority, right? You just need the majority of your daily actions to vote for the new, upgraded version of yourself. If you cast more votes for the good habits than the bad ones by the end of the day, guess what? The new identity wins the election. The whole system is surprisingly forgiving.
Now, if these concepts are as fascinating to you as they were to me when I first read them, checking out the full text of Atomic Habits is absolutely something I highly recommend. To really master your habits, diving deep into James Clear's actual prose is just incredibly valuable. And the great news is it's widely available in both English and Urdu translations, which makes it super accessible. Taking the time to read it cover to cover is a fantastic way to cement these ideas and, cast a few massive votes for that new identity of yours.
Which leads us to our final paradigm shift for today's explainer. Stop focusing solely on your goals and start building the identity that makes those goals inevitable. When you spend 30 days focused purely on acting like the person you want to become, the actual goals, whether that's weight loss, better grades, or improved finances, they just happen as a natural byproduct. It's like magic, but it's just psychology. If you found value in exploring this framework today and you're curious to learn more, be sure to hit that like button, share this with a friend who might need it, and subscribe so you don't miss our future deep dives. I want to leave you with a final provocative question. What is your new identity starting today? Seriously, think about it. Are you a reader? Are you an athlete? Are you someone who simply takes action? I would absolutely love for you to drop a comment below with your answer. Take this inside out framework, start casting those daily votes, and just see where 30 days can take you. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today, and I seriously cannot wait to unpack our next topic with you. See you next time.